What is wrong with our approach to agriculture?
Over the period, our farmers are not business oriented.
What makes agri hard?
It demands time and monitoring. We should do a research and find out how many students who finished university who did agri are into the agri space. We were teaching botanical names of plants here and there. I told friends, this is useless.
I want to understand, why did you resign?
Government has come out with so many policies, and I think that now I want to concentrate on farming. For the youth listening to me, the opportunity is in agriculture.
Will we ever have a member of the Church of Pentecost becoming the president of Ghana ever? Last week, we celebrated a National Farmers' Day in style, and in times like this, we need to pause and reflect on the state of agriculture. Now, Ghana has a vast, fertile land, soil that supports different crops in a good climate, and an abundant human resource. And every year, we spend an average of $2 billion importing essential foods, commodities, and on top of that, food has become increasingly expensive, with food inflation rising to about 43.7% at the end of October 2022. Why must we go hungry despite all our advantages? How do we become self-sufficient in food production? What has to change? And how do we approach agriculture? To discuss these and more, I have with me Mr. Ebenezer Acheampong, an agricultural specialist and a procurement consultant and a former head of procurement at the Ministry of Agriculture, that's Food and Agriculture. You are watching The Hard Truth. My name is Nana Akosua Konadu. Asante Samuel. Ebenezer, welcome to The Hard Truth.
Thank you.
Farmers Day. I mean, we did celebrate the Farmers Day, and are you dressed like a farmer already?
Right.
And I'm happy to have you here, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, we say this, but it is so true. Food is so important, to our human lives, and on contrary, we can develop into a high income nation without first developing, no one can develop into a high, nation without developing its agricultural sector. Briefly, how would you describe the current state of the agriculture sector in Ghana?
Thank you once again, Akosua. At the moment, I would say that the agriculture is now picking up in terms of policy and interest. So that is the state in which we find ourselves.
How is it picking up? How was it before, and how is it picking up now?
Over the period, those who are engaged in agriculture have been let me use the word, those who were not well educated. But currently, we have young men and women who have gone to school, businessmen are now taking advantage of agriculture. So that's why I'm saying we are at a position where it is picking up. The truth is that we have had several policies. And unfortunately, our policies have been pro small scale farming. And that's where we have a lot of problems. Now that we are having young men showing interest in agriculture, I think that we are picking up.
It's not okay to just say we are picking up and yet we are where we are. I'm saying this because we have so much advantage as a country, including vast land, I said that in the intro, and good climate and resources. And Ghana is heavily reliant on our food import. We even import tomatoes far away from Burkina Faso, which is the Sahel region. So what is wrong with our approach to agriculture?
Well, Akosua, in every field, there are three things that are critical. I always say that success is 10% knowledge, 40% environment, and 50% character. And these things are also playing in agriculture space. You see, the knowledge base of our businessmen who are supposed to take advantage of whatever is going on has been to importation. If anybody has a business, you want to think of how can I import? I'm not going to blame them because you see, agriculture is very hard work. It's not easy to be in the farm. But unfortunately, because of the pro small scale policy, government has to spend so much resources in order to help the small scale to understand whatever he's doing. Over the period, our farmers are not business oriented. It has become like a tradition. Let me give a typical example. Because they don't have that business orientation, the moment it rains, you see in a particular location, they all start growing a particular crop without looking at the end user, what would be the within a particular period, what product or produce will be needed by the consumer. So the challenge has been that all the farmers will be growing maize. When they grow the maize, then there's a bumper harvest. The middlemen or the market women will go there because they have enough. They will then end up giving the farmer peanut for whatever he has or she has produced. That is one of the disincentive for farmers then to cultivate the next season. The challenge is that farmers are not seeing farming as a business. They are seeing it as a tradition. But the moment they shift to the business aspect, in fact, in your intro, you mentioned that I'm a specialist. No, but I'm an entrepreneur.
I see.
I'm an agripreneur. I have a farm. I'm doing farming.
I see.
So with the business aspect, when it comes to the business aspect, you first of all, you don't just cultivate. You look at the demand. There's no way you have to enter into farming when you don't have market.
Right.
So that has been our problem, and that is why farmers are not getting what they have to get.
But again, food prices are on a rise or increasing in recent times, and has, highlighted the importance of achieving self-sufficiency in our food production. What should be the preferred priorities and strategies in transforming the agri sector and achieving self-sufficiency? You said we don't have it's just 10% knowledge and all of that. So how do we achieve that?
It is about three-pronged approach. You see, the role of the government is to come up with a policy. And the role of the citizens is to take advantage of the policy. The question is, how many Ghanaians know the policies of government when it comes to, first of all, planting for food and jobs? Unfortunately, it has been in the media. People are just mentioning here and there. We are allowing the politicians just to come and explain. But we need to go down for Ghanaians to understand what planting for food and job is. I had opportunity to speak to some students in Legon. And Akosua, I asked them about government policies. And it was so shocking to know that those even at the university don't know what, as far as agriculture is concerned, planting for food and job, rearing for food and job, and other things, policy the government is implementing. So that is where the knowledge base is. And because, we have a lot of people in the agriculture space, which is good news, because we want to create jobs. And Akosua, let me mention that the first job God created is agriculture. And it presupposes that anything God created, which is eternal, the other jobs will collapse, agri will not. So the issue is that for us to achieve this food sufficiency, one, policy comes in. Two, not just coming up with the policy, but then they have to explain for Ghanaians to understand the available policies for them to take advantage.
We'll talk about the policy, but I want to ask again, should we reintroduce, an improved version of the Acheampong's, Operation Feed Yourself policy, and what form should that take?
Within the policy, there are so many factors. Is the input output issue. Agriculture is input. What you put in is what you're going to get. And it fits into your question, should we introduce Acheampong Operation Feed Yourself? In your intro, you mentioned that we have vast lands. In fact, what we need, thankfully, the way God has blessed us, is not increasing the land size per se. Post-harvest losses, in some instances, could be about 40%. So if we're able to reduce post-harvest losses, we really don't need to increase the land size. For Operation Feed Yourself, I think it's a good point you've raised, especially with the secondary schools. I'm not too sure what is pertinent at the moment. The truth is that now things have changed. When we were having school farms, we were using cutlasses in the holes. And the interest of those who were doing agric wasn't even there because it was so difficult to use the cutlass in the hole. I think it's about time. Agric is moving digital. Agric is moving in the mechanization way. So what I would suggest is that As part of Operation Feed Yourself concept that I'm proposing that we start from the secondary school, we should think of having the right tools so that it will ignite the interest of students in.
Let's talk about the whole chunk, 30 plus million people. I don't have land in my home. Government do have land. So should government say that, oh, I'm giving X, Y hectares or acres of land to persons who are interested in agri? Do you think such approach would also work in our being food sufficient?
Government holdings, as far as farmland is concerned, is not up to 15%. The remaining 85% of the land is with the chiefs. I want to submit that government should partner with the chiefs so that the chiefs can use the land as an equity for others who want to go into farming to have access to land to farm.
There should be a partnership between the
chiefs and the government.
But should it be free? I mean,
no, really. The truth is that the chief, that's what he is living on. But what government can do.
Ebenezer, are you aware lands are expensive? Even when you want them to lease it for you, very expensive. I want to use it for farming for 5 years, 3 years. Super expensive. So it won't be attractive for me to go into. Again, how do we make it attractive for everyone to venture into it?
You just don't need land. If you want to getting the land, the other point is how to develop the land to become a farmland. So government has to liaise with the chiefs, and the chiefs should use the land as an equity, where government would then develop some of the land. In fact, government has been doing it. Let me let me give typical critical examples what government is doing. In the ministry, I was a procurement specialist for a World Bank funded project which ended last year December, called Ghana Commercial Agri Project. Government spent over $100 million to develop free irrigation sites, and the land size totaling, this one is 2,500, there's another one, so it's about 7,000 hectares, which government has spent money to develop the land. And what we did was that we then invited private persons to then get access to the land to farm.
Right.
Another project in the north called Savannah Agriculture Investment Program, SAPIP, they have also developed lands for private people, and they are cultivating huge tracts of farmlands in the northern sector. They are having a second phase, which I believe is going to descend to the southern sector. The other project that government also introduced that develop inland valleys. You see, for rice, you need inland valleys, and government has done some of them, and I think Oliver will ask for more, so we have more to do. But those who are listening to us, it's an opportunity also to look at these opportunities available for you to take advantage of. You mentioned about leasing land. Depending on where you find yourself, some places when you go to the north, you just have to link up with the chiefs. They will give access. Getting access to land is not difficult in the north.
I see.
Yeah, it's not difficult at all.
I see. But my focus now is on the youth. How then do we make agri attractive to them, for them to, hedge onto it and be part of it?
Let me mention that agri is a very hard work. You need to work very hard. So
that's not a disadvantage or disincentive to them. Agri is super hard, That's not a disadvantage to
No,
you.
we need to let them know we have been created to work hard. You can't have success without working hard. This program is hard truth. So we need to let them know the truth. Sometimes we sugarcoat some of them, and then when they enter and it doesn't work,
what makes it hard? What makes agri hard?
It demands time. It requires skills and monitoring. So for the youth to enter into agriculture, you mentioned that food prices are going up. In fact, Akosua, let me mention that this is the opportunity for farmers too. Over the period, farmers have been selling at a loss. Now that the prices are going up, it's an advantage to the farmers as we speak now.
Are you adding fire to it? Should the farmers take advantage and still increase the price? What are you saying?
No, you see, input costs have gone up. And farming as a business, everybody enters the business to make profit, but not taking undue advantage. In fact, truthfully, when you go to the farm gate, the prices are not outrageous as what we are getting in Accra. It's the middlemen who are taking undue advantage. Right. But I just mentioned that sometimes farmers, because the prices were not good, they were farming and they were losing. And because it was just, they were doing it because of tradition. It wasn't as if they were to be.
It wasn't for business. They were just doing it for doing sake. Yeah.
For doing sake. If it were to be for business, they would have stopped farming. But because it has become part of them as a business, as a tradition, they were doing it for doing sake. I like that point. So for the youth listening to me, the opportunity is in agriculture. But I want to start from the schools. In fact, many people have done agric in schools, and the way and manner they were taken through the course, by the time they ended, the interest in entering into farming had gone.
Why?
Because we are too theoretical in our approach. I did agric in the university. Let me tell you a story. Let me share a story.
I'm listening.
We were teaching botanical names of plants here and there. I told friends, this is useless. At that time, I told them, I won't learn this. Why should I memorize botanical names of cassava and all these things? And you will be examining on that. If we keep on doing this, what has botanical name got to do with planting a crop that will yield returns to a student? I want to suggest that we should become so practical so that by the time a youth is finishing agric, he would have been set up in cultivating. In fact, sadly to say that some of them, when they finish school, they can't cultivate. We should do a research and find out how many students who finish university who did agric are into the agric space. Akosua, I won't lie to you, it won't be more than 10%. Even out of that 10%, most of them will be working with government as policymakers.
That's bad.
I'm telling you.
That's bad.
In fact, I have
So what should the approach be? Talking about education before you continue, what should the approach be in the universities now, in the polytechnics?
The students who are doing agric must be on the field, about 70%. They should be on the field cultivating rice, cultivating maize, that they will package, they go through the value chain and they sell it to the student on campus.
Confused. So was there ever a time that you had to go on the field or on campus? Was it just always in class? Were you ever taken outside the
class? You
will
be, but
some
the
practicals?
You do practical, but I tell you, the practicals that
useless.
You do is just for practical's sake. But I'm bringing a business to this, whereby even in an attempt to do their practicals, they are producing goods that can be sold to students on campus.
I get it.
So the Vice Chancellor, as a matter of a policy, you have 40,000 students. They shouldn't buy any produce outside.
They should have it there.
They should have it there.
Right. So the government introduced, policies for the youth. And from where you sit, what has been the results of these agriculture policies for the youth? Has they yielded any results, meaningful results, I would say? Youth in Agriculture program, that's the YIAAP, that was the Youth in Export programs. These programs, have they yielded any results? When
you go to the rural areas, they are taking a lot of advantage of the planting for food and jobs. Because before planting for food and jobs, let me give a typical example. Farmers were using seeds that they harvested from their produce. So, for example, if you have 1 acre, farmers were getting, let's say, typical maize. At the end of the day, they will be getting about 5 bags or 10 bags. Because if you keep on using the same seeds that you planted previously, the yield potential will be reduced. So with the planting for food and job, we introduce new high-yielding seeds to farmers. The farmer who was getting 5 bags, 10 bags per acre ended up getting 20, 30 in some instances.
Are these GMO?
Not. It's an improved variety hybrid, not GMO. No, it's a hybrid. And that was the result that we had until now, almighty COVID and Ukraine and the global challenge. Now prices of fertilizer has gone so high, where now it's in an attempt, it's trying to erode the gains government through that policy we were able to achieve. But I think that it's about time they review the policy, and I like the budget they are introducing organic fertilizer, and to me, Akosua is a good policy. Let me give you a typical example.
We'll talk about the budget after the break. You're still watching The Hard Truth. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are still watching The Hard Truth. I have agripreneur. That's a new word. Mr. Ebenezer Acheampong, former head of procurement at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, is still here. So, the 2023 budget was presented to Parliament not too long ago, and does the budget really offer hope for the agri sector, especially considering the times we are in?
Right, I listened to the finance minister and I took some time to read the budget as far as the agri space is concerned. I think I see some things that the government wants to do, which I think is a good one. The first one had to do with the plan the government wants to promote organic fertilizer. And of course, here I want to add my voice to it. I remember about 3 years ago, when I was in the ministry, I was kind of interested in seeing government promoting organic fertilizer. The reason is very simple. At the moment, the inorganic fertilizer prices are going up. And a farmer for 1 acre needs about 3 bags of inorganic fertilizer. That's 2 NPK and then urea or ammonia. And the current price for fertilizer, a bag is about 450 Ghana cedis. So for the 3, it's about 1,350. That's the cost of the fertilizer. We haven't added the cost of transporting for the farmer when he gets to where he's buying it, cost of transport and even other costs. Let's use the 1,350 per acre. Come to organic fertilizer. Organic fertilizer, I have one that I've been using per acre. I spend not more than 300 Ghana cedis.
So why do you go for 1,300 then?
You see, farmers, when they accept something, it's difficult for you to change.
You don't want to change.
You don't want to change. It has taken me about 3 years for me to use my organic fertilizer because they are risk averse.
And is it giving the same results or better results?
Better results in terms of the fertility of the soil. The more you use organic fertilizer, the more the soil gets its strength.
Right. So again, is it a good budget in terms of agriculture?
It's a good one when it comes to the organic fertilizer. And now government realizing that, truth is that food crisis we have just started. And globally, it's going to be worse. But if you look at the crisis map that Food and Agriculture Organization, they have a particular map for this food crisis. Ghana is not bad at all. Ghana sits in a very advantageous position.
If it's not bad, then why is the General Agricultural Workers Union also describing the budget as uninspiring to the agri sector and that it has no radical policy measures to turn agri into what it's supposed to be? What are your thoughts on that?
Success is about 40% character. No matter the budget, the policy government can come out, you can get the bursts of policy. If the individual Ghanaian, the way we see things, the way I don't know how to put it, we have a challenge as individuals. Some of us think that government is supposed to do everything for us.
But aren't you concerned with the allocation of the budget? They allocate only 1.9% of the budget. That is less than what is contained in the Malibu Declaration, which supposed that the government or every country need to commit 10% to it of the annual spending of its budget. 10%. And it's just 1.9%. Considering the times we are in, isn't the allocation too small?
I want to look at it from a business perspective and an opportunity for those who are listening to us. The truth is that, those who import food produce from other countries, do you know how much money we spend on rice? If they change their mindset, it's okay now, instead of sending this money to import, I want to get farmers to produce for me. That will even be more than what government would have located. So the private sector has huge advantage when it comes to the poultry, how much we import poultry products. If those who are imported decide, okay, now government puts a system in place so that we can buy from those who are...
Exactly. So if government is not putting in the enabling environment, how are we expecting the private sector to thrive?
Government all over the world have not been able to give the needed budget for the even sectors that needed much coming to Ghana, and that's the same, is playing the same way. But the truth is that I want us to look at it from the individual and versus the government. Government role is to come up with policy. Even what you haven't even realized that the money government says is going to release at the end of the year, we are not going to get that money being released. That's the reality on the ground. Government can come and say, okay, I'm giving 10% of my budget to agree. But when it comes to the implementation, I tell you the truth, we don't really receive that percentage any year government claims to
But
be
you're
giving
giving
to.
us only 1.9%. If you reduce it, I mean, it'll be left to say
And
we
actually, it's
shouldn't.
going to be reduced.
I see.
In practice, you can't draw down government
So
budget.
is it okay? I mean, from
No,
what
it's
you're
not.
saying,
It's
is it
not
okay? I mean, they have other things they have to consider, so you don't really have to put in
No, apart
much
from
so
that,
far as agriculture is
I'm not.
concerned.
I'm not cutting. I'm not sure government even captured other funding source they're getting from the World Bank, African Development Bank. I'm aware government is getting about $150 million from the World Bank to implement a project called Food Security Resilient Program. That is a regional program being done, some Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and including Ghana. But Ghana has about $150 million for that. And then I know of African development developing another project. So I'm not too sure it has been captured in the budget.
Right. Let's look at the peasant farming. You talked about that. The Peasant Farmers Association also expressed their disappointment at the failure of the budget to tackle key issues affecting, planting for food and job programs such as limited supply of inputs, lack of quality seeds, expired fertilizers, inadequate funds to pay supplies. Until a few months ago, you were in charge of procurement at the agriculture sector. Aren't these concerns serious?
Very serious. Very serious. For example, you need these input supplies to be able to give to farmers. And unfortunately, payment has always been a challenge. And sometimes I wonder how these suppliers keep on being business. For example, if government gets, you supply government, it takes government a year to pay you. I ask myself, how are they able to sustain their business?
Why were you doing that? You were the head of procurement, so why couldn't you change the narrative when you were there?
For example, I'm not the final authority when it comes to payment. You do all that it requires to submit payment requests to finance. But government also is sourcing money from taxes, and sometimes it becomes so difficult. However, the challenge that they raise when it comes to expired whatever, I'm not too sure about that.
Fertilizers.
That is the rule. In fact, in our country, if we don't put system in place, businessmen will always want to take advantage of certain situation. It never occurred to me that we've supplied expired fertilizer. It's the first time I'm hearing it. I have to be honest with you. However, what I got to know of was some suppliers giving substandard fertilizer. That one I got a win of it, and the ministry took it seriously. We did investigation to find out.
But again, don't you think if the farmers are paid on time, some of these things will go out because they are not paid on time. They try to find other ways to.
That's the suppliers. Sometimes, that's a critical thing. In fact, you have made a very important point. In fact, as we speak, those who even supplied last year's seeds have not been paid. And I wonder when government requests them to supply, I wonder where they're going to get money to import some of these quality seeds to farmers. I see a risk in that area.
So what must be the approach now?
I think that, number one, government in relating with research has to come up with homegrown, improved hybrid seeds for farmers. I know the researchers are doing well, but it is sometimes, let me also advise, there's one thing being a manufacturer or a researcher, another thing being a supplier, supplying to government. Mistakes, with my experience in procurement, mistakes people have made over the years is that one of the major one is that manufacturers trying to become suppliers to government. If you do that, you lose out because government don't pay on time. The reason why government always procurement prices seems to be on the higher side compared to the manufacturing is that you need a supply because government don't pre-finance. According to our laws, government will not give you money to go and buy something.
Yes, but if we do it, you've pre-financed already, why don't you pay back early so that it's like all the time you have something to work with?
That's a challenge. And that's why you need a very solid, those who have financial resources to be the suppliers who will go to the manufacturer, pay the manufacturer to be in business, and then supply to government and wait for government to pay. That has been the
The
system.
waiting period,
That one, I get you. But you see, the truth, that's why if you get a very good supplier and he's giving a price to government, he considers always the payment period is critical.
and add some to it.
You have to. You have to.
I see.
You have to, else you'll be out of business. You have to.
I see. Now, to do with the food prices in the country, the Agri Ministry introduced the Planting for Food and Jobs program to have affordable foodstuffs and all that. They sent some to the ministry, supplying of that, affordable foodstuffs to the civil servants in the public sector. Is this sustainable, or is this a sustainable move?
You see, government always pave way, and the citizens must take advantage of it. As far as government, it's not sustainable, but they've paved way for us to really, if you're a business person, you can then engage government. It's okay, you want to take this. Instead of even bringing it to maybe the ministry, you want to locate the districts within the Greater Accra and liaise with the district assemblies. Give you a space. You can have maybe weekend market kind of bringing produce to those strategic locations. For as far as government is concerned, Akosua, truth be told, I did a bit investigation to find out the role of government in this farming. The market that they have sent to the
ministries.
The ministries. I've been told that government is just facilitating, but they are dealing with private individuals. So I hope and pray that these private individuals will
So others should take it up and also duplicate it.
and
Right. Planting for Food and Jobs again mostly concentrate on increasing production. Not much emphasis is placed on storage and processing. So even though the production is increased, we couldn't stock in the surplus. Was the program flawed from inception?
Not really. In fact, it was part of the program. And when I was there, we constructed warehouses.
Where are these warehouses?
They are in the districts. You see, and once again, these are also opportunity for others to take advantage of.
To what? To have warehouses?
The warehouses have been built by government. They have to liaise with government.
How huge are these warehouses? And how many can it store? How many food?
Good. The ones that we constructed was 1,000 metric tons. 1,000 metric tons is about 20,000 50 kg bags. That was 1,000 metric tons. So we constructed almost 30 of them in a strategic area. And then under special initiative, they also constructed about
we have
50.
food stored in there right now?
No, now they are empty. I know some places they have food in it.
Why are they empty?
You see, now government cannot do all. It's an advantage for the private person. Government has constructed. So you, as a private person, can liaise with government and buy these food and store. And people are doing it. The president said, Sikampedede. Ghana, let me be honest with you, those who are making money are not talking. I'm telling you. And I know a lot of people who are into this buying maize and storing. Let me give you a typical example. As we speak now, when you buy a bag of maize and you store, at the moment at the farm gate, bringing it to, let's say, a warehouse, it's going to cost you roughly about 180, depending on where you find yourself. Do you know that somebody can store for 2 months, 3 months? This 180 will move to 360. And that's the business that people are doing, but they won't tell you. Buy from them.
Store it. And sell.
And so during the lean season, in fact, as we speak, and I think this one is how I have to appeal to the government. As we speak now, Burkinabes are buying our maize and rice as we speak. government must put its machinery in place to stop it. Else you're going to have
Who is selling these to them? Are they selling to them?
farmers. But farmers want money. When they go there and you are a local person, you want to give farmer 150. The people are prepared to give the farmers 160.
They'll go with them.
They will go with them. But if we have this national security at our borders preventing them from buying, I'm telling you it's true. It's happening as we speak now. So I want to.
Please, those of you selling to the Burkinabes, please stop it. Sell to Ghanaians, right?
They will, but Akosua, the issue is that how many Ghanaians are also involved in it? Farmers have produced, they want to sell it. But it should be a government policy where government has to step in to buy these things and store.
But I'm sad. Are these huge warehouses? Are these white elephants now? I mean, it's just there. There's nothing in it now. They are white elephants.
About 2 months ago, I saw the ministry advertising for these warehouses for private person to show interest. I think it's a process that is ongoing.
Did you do a proper research before putting these things up?
We did. We did.
So why they should be full all the time. So if you did research, you should have known that, it would have been empty by this time. What measures would you take? So was there proper research and thought through before you started?
I was told government wants to set up what we call Grains Development Authority. And I think I support this initiative, even though the budget said that you're not going to introduce new authority, but this is critical. What this authority would have done or would do is that they would have then built a lot of bigger warehouses, bigger than what we've built, and buy all the grains like we are doing for cocoa. It's by law that you can't sell your cocoa beans outside cocoa board. So with this Grains Development Authority, rice, maize, soya, millet, and sorghum, they would have then bought all of the things that the farmers would have cultivated. If that happens, what we're going to have as citizens is that then prices of these produce will be maintained within the particular year in which we will be consuming. So that is the concept, and which I think is something government must do.
So until that happens, it's lying down like that, and we need private sector to come in.
Private sector should take advantage.
I see. You're still watching The Hard Truth? Just stay. Be right back. We're still learning about agriculture and how to improve the agri sector in our country. We're still watching The Hard Truth. Mr. Ebenezer Acheampong, former head of Procurement, Ministry of Agri, and an agripreneur, is still here. Now, the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina, warned in April this year that Africa must prepare for inevitability of a global food crisis. The UN Secretary also warned in the G20 summit held last month that the world was going to go into a region of catastrophe in 2023. Is Ghana prepared for this catastrophe? Would there be any catastrophe at all?
From policy level, the Planting for Food and Job over the period has been able to prove that if we give all the necessary input, we will be able to meet these warning signs that we are having. But there are other things that are beyond us. For example, with the global warming, where we have drought, it's going to be difficult for us to, if we don't have mitigation measures. And unfortunately, government, the project that I mentioned that is being sponsored by the World Bank, they want to promote drought resistant varieties that farmers can use short duration plants that farmers can use in case when you plant in
For
the
which
rain.
produce?
Maize, rice, soya. These are the three main crops that they want to promote. So the warnings that they are giving for us in Ghana, I think is an advantage for us. The coming years, we need to look at it. But I also want to suggest that the government should pay attention to irrigation. And the question I want to ask is, where are we on this dam? What's the name? Pualugu multipurpose dam. Where are we on that? I want to recommend government, ask government to put the necessary resources into having this dam irrigation facility come on stream, because we're going to develop about 24,000 hectares if we have that under irrigation.
But even the growing insecurity, food insecurity has become a concern to many of us, so many Ghanaians and stakeholders in the agri sector. But the sector minister, Honorable Acheampong, maintains that Ghana is food secure. From where you said, how real is the threat of food insecurity, and are we really food secure as the minister claims we are?
Now when you have money, you want to buy food, I think you have access to it. So when you talk of food security, it has to do with the availability, accessibility, stability. You're talking about the stability issue. When it comes to availability, we do, because when you want to buy rice, you can get. Maybe the issue has to do with the price. And when it comes to accessibility,
do we have access?
Access, yeah. There's market now. Earlier on we talked about the ministry bringing food hitherto, which would have been spoiled.
So what if it ends? Something happens and
And for that's why I mentioned that as part of it, the stability, government should make sure that now the northern sector is harvesting. Government should make sure that we don't allow these Burkinabes to come in to carry or buy all the food. You know what they do? That they will go and
store. They'll come and sell it,
and they'll bring back to us. So that's where the risk is.
Yeah.
But God has been gracious to us because we've had enough rains this year, and I know projection next year is not too bad as far as the rains are concerned. What is left for us is everybody should now think of entering into farming, even from your backyard level to those in Accra, please. Instead of sending, let me give an advice, instead of sending raw money to your parents there, I think that you can even think of getting them inputs, farm inputs, so that they can increase their farm size in a business line. Because
they'll be giving you food supply all the time.
All the time, not getting, and those outside the country too, instead of sending monies to people to
pay fees and all.
Buy land, get something to invest in, so that they will turn the money.
Right. I'm interested in the minister. Let's talk about the minister a bit. He's someone who has attracted some intense comments from Ghanaians, and I'm sure you had personal interactions with him during your course of work. What were your impressions of him?
Oh, my minister is a hardworking minister. I worked with him as a procurement specialist, and we had a very cordial working relationship. And one thing I like about him is that if you know your staff and you advise him, he will listen.
I see.
Yeah.
Is he a hard man?
Very tough man.
I see. But so how would you rate his performance? Has he performed well as a great minister?
As far as planting for food and jobs, because he was put there to make sure that we have something to eat. So we all have to judge individually. Are we getting something to eat? The answer is yes. Production level has gone up because of the mitigation measures. It wasn't just a natural thing that occurred to us. It was out of a policy.
I see. So from where you say the minister is doing very well.
Well, from where I see, he's a human being.
Yes.
So, but I'm talking about what was given to him to do, and having worked with him, he knows his stuff, because he knows he's also a farmer.
Right.
So when you meet him and you are talking about the farming issue, he comes in with both intellectual bit and a practical bit.
Yes, but I'm sure you've heard that over the, some time there's been agitations and people calling for his removal as a great minister. Should he he made to step down?
You know, there's a principle that when the applause
It's loud.
is loud,
You step down.
you step down. So that when I leave, people also have their own opinion.
So completed. The applause is loud. So do you think the minister should step down?
I'm just making a statement.
You can't make a statement in vacuum.
In vacuum.
Right. So the applause is loud now. Plans for Food and Jobs in your opinion is doing well. So should he step down?
You know, he also has plans to stand as a presidential candidate in his party. And I think that will help him to make an informed decision.
So what? He should step down and think about his presidential ambitions?
I would not say he should step down, but I'm saying that he has done his work. Applause is very loud now. Strategically, he can take a decision as to what to do. You know, you mentioned that people were calling for him to step down. As a person, I also think that now that we are also looking at the issue of food crisis, the question is it the ideal time for him to step down or not?
I see. You have a rich, beautiful background in agriculture, and you've worked at the ministry for so many years. Apply your knowledge and experience benefit the agriculture sector. Yet you resigned a few months ago. I want to understand, why did you resign?
I told you that the role of government is to come up with policies, and the responsibility of the citizens to take advantage of the policy. In fact, in my life, I believe in Ghana. I love Ghana. And one principle of my life is that I don't see problem. I always see opportunities. And one opportunity that I've realized is that government has come out with so many policies, and I think that now I want to concentrate on farming. And now I'm a big time farmer.
A serious farmer.
I'm a very serious farmer. And I want to encourage everybody. The best is farming.
Right, but why am I hearing this, that you had issues with some of your colleagues at work, and most of you wanted you gone? Is that true?
Basically, in every work you do, you don't expect to have everybody.
Were they threatening you to leave your post, hence the pressure to resign?
Oh, in fact, my contract ended last year, December.
You could have renewed.
I have options. I was a consultant. Let me put it on record.
Right.
Procurement consultant. And let me also mention that whatever I did for the ministry, in fact, I was recruited under a World Bank funded project. I ended up working for the ministry for free, the entire ministry. I was paid on just the project I was recruited. But whatever I did for the ministry
was for free.
Was for free.
I see.
Was
so
for free.
No one pressured you to leave. You just resigned because you wanted to resign.
And the truth is that my contract ended, and like
Right.
you made a very important point, was that I could have renewed the contract. Let me also mention.
But again, I said you had vast, brilliant knowledge in agriculture. Couldn't you have stayed to help the ministry? I mean, couldn't you have just said, the naysayers there, couldn't you have said, well, I know you want me out, but I want to stay to help the country. Couldn't you have done that?
And I think I would do it better when I have to prove. Sometimes when you don't have proof, you advise people will not listen. That's why the rich don't listen to the poor. Normally. Because you have to have a product. That's why I have ventured into agriculture. Now I'm into the tree crops. I'm into rice and maize and plantain. And I tell you, it's worth my attention.
Okay, you're happy now.
I'm extremely happy.
So the naysayers,
In fact, they need me.
They need you. The naysayers need you.
No, they need me. Oh, to be truthful, I have been a procurement specialist for 16 years. Donor-funded projects, and I know what I'm worth. I know what I can do. And I think that now that I'm out, I can offer so much help, truthfully.
Right. We have been celebrating the National Farmers Day every year, and as an agri specialist again, agripreneur, how impactful has these celebrations been over the years, in your estimation, the Farmers Day?
Really, in fact, when you go back to history, how it started between 1982 and 84, you know, this famine that came. So in 85, because of government policy, they were able to grow agriculture by 30%. And that is why government decided to appreciate farmers.
But has the impact been,
Very
aligned
well.
to the quest of
Very
food
well.
sufficiency? Okay.
Very well, because this is, I know the best farmer, I know that is a young man who...
How do they even select these things? Best farmer, this. How is the selection made?
It's a very rigorous process.
I see.
Honestly, you have to be all around in terms of technology, size, in terms of record keepings, and it's a lot of work that goes into it. This year I traveled to Israel with the best farmer. That's the last year's best farmer, and you realize that the exposure he got when we visited Israel. I went on a private, but it was a group that I joined. And if he wasn't the best farmer, I don't think he would have got
that advantage. I see.
So he exposed you to so many things.
Right. So is the outlook for the sector, the agri sector in 2023, is it looking brighter? How do you see it?
The outlook, as far as the government budgetary support is, it's not like that one. I was side with the peasant farmers when we were looking in terms of the budgetary allocation, then it's not the best. However, when you want to look at it from the policy line where government wants to stop or reduce importation of the rice and the poultry, then it's a good one for any individual who wants to venture into agriculture.
So the 2023 outlook in agri is bright.
From the individual level, if you want to take advantage of it, it's very bright. That's what I see.
You don't trust the government, right? Do you trust the government?
Oh, I do, because government has the policies available for us to take advantage of.
I see. Now, you are an elder of the Church of Pentecost, and I know the Church of Pentecost has a population of over 3.3 million members. Will we ever have a member of the Church of Pentecost becoming the president of Ghana ever?
Never say never. It's possible. Our structure now is highly difficult for an individual to become a president. Possessing the nation agenda, we want the individual members, wherever they find themselves, they have to work so hard. And if they are in any of the political parties, they have to work so hard and come out for their party to select for the person to become the president.
Finally, in 30 seconds, tell me about the Kingdom Economic Forum, right? Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's a forum that we invite great men and women to share ideas as to how we can come up with alternate solutions for Ghana and, for that matter, Africa.
I see.
Sure.
How is it going?
Oh, it's fantastic. We've had great men and women who have come, the economists, professors, and very soon we'll be inviting you next year to talk about
I see.
role of the media for national development.
That should be interesting.
Sure.
Do we have any Christmas programs coming up?
Right. This Christmas on the 17th, which is a Saturday, we're going to have a program on agripreneurship.
I see. That's the final one.
Final one. Because we know next year is Agri-Year, where people can make a lot of money. If you wanted to join us to see the various opportunities in agri space where you can invest, from the tree crops to the annual crops.
I see.
So we want to invite you. We'll share the links and then maybe invite you.
Sure. All right. So thank you so much for talking to the Heart. I've been speaking to Mr. Ebenezer Acheampong, an agricultural specialist and the former head of procurement at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. I want to ask this question: does the future of agric, sector look great, and can we become self-sufficient in food production? And are we convinced that the current government can take us there? Share your thoughts with us on our social media platforms. Karen Harpo, thank you so much for this lovely dress. Catch a repeat of the program on Saturday at 2 p.m. right here on Joy News. My name is Nana Akosua Konadu. Have a good evening.